It's no secret that there are a lot of characters in Marvel Rivals that have been leaked. The thing that makes this interesting, however, compared to lots of other games in the shooter space, is that Marvel Rivals leaked characters tend to be pretty well fleshed out, and more so, a lot of the leaks that we end up seeing tend to follow through, and that is even more true today with one of my favorite Marvel characters of all time and one of my biggest hopes for the game, Deadpool. Today, I want to indulge in a little bit of theory crafting and talk about what I think Deadpool's kit can be, just for the fun of it. And in case you're wondering why I think Deadpool will be in the game, well, there's quite a lot of, good sources that can verify this from in the game themselves. Take a look at this voice line here.
Great, we're saving the world and here comes the loosest cannon. Just an observation.
Not only that, but we also have a spray from Wolverine that is exactly half of a heart, which, you know, Wolverine and Deadpool canonically do not get along in the best way possible. Same with Spider-Man, obviously. And we also have this little sticky note that I barely see anybody talk about in the Tokyo map, which for me is just a very clear Deadpool was here. By the way, a lot of the stuff that you're seeing here, of course, is from outside sources. I will leave a link to all of the creators who I'm referencing here in the description down below, so go check that out. So, let's talk about what we think Deadpool will be like, and we can start by kind of looking at some of his previous games. There was the Marvel vs. Capcom game that was well received, and there was a Deadpool dedicated game that was okay, apparently. I didn't play it myself, but you know, IMDb review says it was okay. I think the biggest thing for Marvel Rivals in particular is that the devs seem to focus heavily on power fantasy and novelty more than anything. They want to create characters that don't have any similar ideas to other characters in the game. Sure, other characters can have a bubble, but like the Hulk's bubble does something a little bit different than Magneto's bubble, for an example. All of the heroes that we ended up getting with the Fantastic Four were all very different, even going so far as to give the Thing an ability that is just not anywhere ever for what he can do, as far as I can tell. But again, just to better emphasize the novelty that Marvel Rivals tries to focus on. So, what would be Deadpool's role? I've seen a lot of people say that he should be a duelist, a DPS character, and while I understand where people are coming from, I think that canonically he tends to be a little bit tougher. I think that he tends to be more of a Vanguard, a tank. He's tough, and he's not really known for his movement abilities, although he, like many other characters in the Marvel Rivals universe, has enhanced mobility in some capacity, whether that be just superhuman stamina or general movement speed. He's much better known for his healing and his general tankiness, I think, and I don't think he's very supportive. I can see an argument being made for that, but for me, and for today's video, we're going to talk about him being a 3-star difficulty, 600 HP, Vanguard tank, and more than anything, sort of a dive tank at that. I want to focus the flavor of Deadpool on being a weapons master, while also doing, of course, an excellent nod as best as I can to his ability to break the fourth wall. Let's start with his passive, and this will just be maximum effort. Deadpool regenerates his health up to a certain limit. Receiving excess health recovers this ability. Basically, this is an extra health bar underneath his health bar. 300 HP that will trickle little bits of health to Deadpool while he's in the middle of combat. It doesn't matter if he's in taking damage or not in combat, he'll just slowly regenerate using this 300 HP pool. Being that it's only 2 HP per second, this would give him over the course of 5 seconds, which would be roughly the amount of time it would take to get rid of him as a DPS character, generally speaking, would give him an effective health of about 610. Obviously, the longer he can stay into a fight, the more health he generally will get. This extra HP pool takes a bit of extra effort to regenerate as well. If you're a healer trying to heal up Deadpool, you will probably have some kind of icon or something, some kind of meter to show that he can be healed a little bit more for his passive, and this will take more effort than normal. This will take more healing than it would if he was damaged for 300 amount. So this gives an incentive for him to get into combat, do what he needs to do for as long as he can before getting out, hopefully with the fight having concluded, so he can heal himself back up with his teammates. Now for his main attacks, I think that he would be best off using his Akimbo Pistols. Deadpool fires his 2 pistols, dealing moderate damage at most ranges. Deadpool would be the only character that actually can deal damage outside of a set range. Most of the tanks in the game, their major point of weakness is that their damage just completely vanishes up to a certain point, and it's a pretty short point at that. Where with him here, his damage should actually be pretty okay. 20 damage per shot with quick 2-round bursts for both of his pistols, equaling out to about 120 DPS. So that's slightly better than some of the tanks, but not by a lot. And it's not a great combo weapon either, as most healers will be able to out heal that damage, especially with a lot of focused healing. This does drop off quickly, however, but it doesn't vanish like we mentioned with the other tanks. The fall off is a bit more gradual, but it begins at 10 meters and bottoms out to 5 damage at about 40 meters. So again, he wouldn't have great damage, but he can consistently apply pressure. But of course, that's only part of his kit. His secondary weapon would be his katanas. Deadpool slashes close range enemies with his swords for damage and knockback. This is a 3-hit combo, a 1-2-3, 1 sword, a second sword, and then a kick, like a side kick, causing a bit of knockback on the final hit. The idea here is that the full combo would deal 130 if you hit all 3, perfectly setting him up for a quick burst from his Akimbo Pistols for the cleanup on a 250 HP target. Of course, you can get more on it if you're able to hit heads and such, so this would make him feel like he's weaving in and out of combat pretty efficiently, hopefully narrowing down on that feeling of him being a mercenary, a well-experienced person with a weapon, with his tools. And of course, being able to swap between what he needs to do would of course give him slightly better damage in close range, or would give him a little bit more versatility at the longer ranges. His first ability is called Splitting Lead. Deadpool slices through enemy projectiles, protecting himself for a short duration. Borrowing a bit of a line from a movie that I didn't even recognize him in, the idea here is that this is a very selfish, front-facing shield. It doesn't really protect his allies much, but it does protect him. Think similarly to how maybe Captain America might work, minus the return to sender, minus the reflection that it has. This is much more of a just simply protect myself for the time being, maybe similar to Genji's reflect, again, minus the reflect, just simply a way for him to turn off damage for a short period, because he's gonna get himself into trouble. It has an 8-second cooldown and lasts for 3 seconds. His second ability is, I decided to call it Whoopsie Daisy, because it just feels so Deadpool of Deadpool to call something like that an ability, a similar name to this. Deadpool uses his teleportation belt to warp back to a previous point in time, something we've seen him do in other Marvel representations of him. This rewinds him back 5 seconds ago. This is the same length as Psylocke and the Black Panther team up with magic, but it doesn't do any healing or bonus health. The difference is here that he gets 2 charges of it, and these can be used back to back to allow him to get out of combat, and then after getting a little bit of healing, jump back into combat with his second charge. These do have a quite lengthy cooldown though of 16 seconds, meaning that he doesn't want to be using these too often if he can help it. Again, think like Tracer's Recall minus the overall healing. For his ability 3, I've called it Think Fast. Deadpool throws a cookable flashbang grenade. This deals 130 damage at the very, very center, so meaning if you were to land this basically within 1 meter of the target, or basically at their feet, it would deal a pretty hefty amount, allowing him to follow up with his pistols for an insta-kill on squishy characters, and it has a pretty wide radius of 8 meters, but the damage drops off pretty swiftly, only dealing 30 damage at the absolute edges, which is, of course, nothing. The blind, however, is pretty impressive for 3 seconds, which is twice as long as Cloak and Dagger's blind. And again, it has a pretty long cooldown of about 12 seconds. This grenade is a bit different in that it can be cooked, and it will show a similar sort of trajectory path to how the Wolverine and Hulk or the Thing team up would work, and that he'd be able to see where he's going to throw it before he can actually throw it. And it is possible for him to hold this too long and have it detonate in his hand and stun himself, of which he will give you a much of a word for. I can imagine, at least. This would also show up as an icon wherever it landed, allowing the enemies to kind of get an idea of where this is going to go off so they can get away from it, as obviously this is a pretty debilitating ability. So this would definitely be something that they would like to be aware of. So just as a side thing for the game design stuff. And perhaps for his most important aspect of his kit, his ultimate is called This Is My Ultimate. Deadpool swaps health bars with an opponent that he can see for a short duration. Absolutely leaning into the fourth wall breaking ability that he has. He basically will go into first person for just a second, hold up his two fingers like he's going to pinch somebody, grab somebody's health bar and swap it with his own. It's a line of sight check and it has quite a long casting time, but during this duration, Deadpool uses the health bar that he swapped with his opponent, and his opponent uses his, no matter how damaged either of them were. And after 8 seconds, they will swap back to their previous amounts. And if either target dies during this duration, they will swap back to their normal bodies with full health. This basically encourages Deadpool to pick a target that is decently healthy, such as a tank, while he's also damaged himself, swap health bars, and then try to kill that target while he's in that weakened state. Being that Deadpool is so different than what the other tanks would be, he would be a lot more selfish, and an ability like this doesn't exist. We don't have any health swapping abilities, nor a sort of shared pain mechanic. I feel like this would be a perfect thing for Deadpool to do for his ultimate, as it's exactly the type of flavor that he would have for his fourth wall break. Heck, in Marvel vs. Capcom, he used his X meter, his ultimate meter, to beat opponents over the head with, so maybe we could do something like that. And lastly, for his team-ups. Now, this is where things get a tad interesting. I think it could be cool that he could either have a team up with Rocket, just the exact same that he has with the Punisher, Rocket's Punisher, and Bucky team up, where he just gets to fire faster for a little bit of time with infinite ammo. Seems perfectly in flavor and would sort of bring a team together. Or I could see a thing with Wolverine, where when the two of them are both in the lobby, the Wolverine gets a little bit of Deadpool's healing, just that little bit of trickled in health while he's on the field. But I want to hear what you guys have to think. Do you guys have a better idea for the team up? This is the one that I'm not super sure on, so I definitely would love to hear what you guys have to say. And if you guys like this idea, I would love to do more of these. I love game design. I love theory crafting, so please let me know if this is something you want to see. Give it a like, subscribe if you aren't already, maybe drop a comment for an ability or a character that you would like to see. Bless your faces, and deuces.